This month's been pretty wild for Marvel Snap. Not just with cards, but mostly just all the changes to the game. I mean, we got borders, we got the graveyard, the undo end turn button, just a lot of impactful balance changes overall. I mean, I'm pretty impressed. In fact, for a second, I thought they were going to make all my fixing card videos obsolete. I mean, with all the changes that they were making, I had to rewrite my thoughts on a lot of cards. That being said, today I thought I'd kind of give an overview on what my thoughts were on some of these changes. Given, some time has passed, so they could marinate, see what they nailed or didn't. And I'm going to start with Elsa. And honestly, this was the exact change that I was going to propose for her. I'm really glad that, she has her board-wide effect again. I couldn't have seen this going any other way. I don't think it's that bad to have her at a 3 cost. It still gives you plenty of turns to take advantage of the effect. I mean, I would have settled for her being a 2-0 with this effect, if I'm being honest. But I don't mind this. I think Elsa has finally found a home in some decks again. Yondu and M'Baku were both in my fixing 1 cost video, and this is like the exact opposite of what I wanted. At least for Yondu, I don't think this is gonna do anything, honestly. I'm gonna start with M'Baku because there's really not much to say. They essentially didn't do anything. In fact, it's arguable that he might even be worse than old M'Baku, because you might actually need him at the location you have the most power in. Honestly, this is the most pathetic change to a card I've ever seen. If they don't change his stat line, there's just nothing that'll make him good. Yondu, on the other hand, I don't think is as egregious necessarily if you consider the change was in preparation for Baron Zemo. But really, you could argue that this change just makes him worse overall. Unlike the change that I would have wanted for him, this actually has less synergy with Null. But I suppose maybe they were going to go a different direction with Yondu since, Destroy All, it's already pretty tight. It doesn't really have much space for anything else. So, funny enough, this technically works better with Cable, who also got a change. I mean, it's reaching, but it works in the sense that you'll have more of a chance to draw a strong card with Cable. But like I said, that's reaching. But as of right now, I mean, this change is horrendous, really. I mean, I don't know what else Sick and Dinner has planned, so I guess time will tell with this one. But so Meek was not on my bucket list actually, but damn, this is a good one. This card definitely didn't need it, but I mean, it's a welcome change. I mean, any change to not make a card garbage is a great change, and this was a great change. I mean, it might be too strong, all things considered, especially since, I mean, I never thought it was a bad card to begin with. Cuttable from some decks, sure, but still, I mean, like a 1-5 or 1-6, in a lot of cases. I mean, I think that they just needed the change for, Dracula working at the end of the game, which, in case you didn't know, because Dracula's ability happens at the end of the game, Meek doesn't move. And he doesn't get the power, more importantly. So, I mean, this change definitely addressed that. But they just went above and beyond with it, honestly. So next, Cable's change. I mean, it's just kind of coming back full circle. And I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, I guess he could be good in Loki, but he just still feels meh, I guess. I mean, giving him something like the Mirage ability, or like not necessarily exactly what Mirage does, like with the +2, but something where it's like not just a card, a card and something to spice it up, even if it was just a +1 instead of a +2, like I'd be pretty content with that. All right. Mantis, the Mantis change definitely changes her up for the better, but I still wouldn't exactly call her a good card. I can see a lot of potential with this ability, but I mean, you know what? I think it'd be decent as a 1-2, as a matter of fact. Reason being that, she's sort of a tech card now, and it's a lot more specific than some of the higher cost tech cards. Like, the main thing here is that you risk getting something that you don't want to play. If it was a copy on the board, though, oh man, this would go nuts. I doubt they'll ever make that change. But either way, it's too circumstantial still. Nobody's going to play Mantis. Mediocre change overall. Alright, so this is probably a hot take, but I don't think Leech needed a nerf. At least not like this. I understand Leech was insta-winning against some decks, and that it just doesn't feel good. But he was balanced by the risk that you could give your opponent a free Infinite, free Ebony Maw, whatever, I'm not an advocate of like running Leech in every deck or whatever, but they could have brought him down to like a 5-1 or even 5-0 before just outright taking his ability. One of the great uses of Leech was against Destroy, I think, honestly, Destroy's been kind of more annoying than Leech, at least to me. Because, they just hoard everything for the last turn, like Null, the Death, the Deadpool, and, the Deadpool, it doesn't do much to it, but, like, the Null and the Death do get affected, to an extent. I think Death keeps the reduction, but the Null, at least get one of those things rid of, anyways, this isn't a rant about Destroy. I'm just saying that certain decks need to be kept in check, and maybe they're going to revert this when that time comes. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Leech just needed to die. But that's the way I see it. There might be a time where Leech comes back and he's needed again. Adam Warlock, his change is pretty worthless, to be honest. Potentially, he's even worse than he was at a 2-0. They should have just tested the waters with a 2-1. Though, if you ask me, I just think he should get reworked as like a 6-cost card, considering, his character's importance. But, if we're just addressing the card as he is now, honestly, even a 5-6 won't see play. 5-7, maybe, but it's a hard sell because he would really only be good with Magic. And even then, a 5 cost is just so expensive for this effect. I just give him the 2-1. If it's too strong, just change it on reveal. On reveal, draw a card if you're winning here at the end of the turn. That way, you're only drawing the one card. Except with like Grandmaster, I guess. But even then, you're investing 2 turns into drawing and have no power on the board. It's just, it works. I think him as a 2-1 would work. Anyways, honestly, a pretty bad change overall. Captain Marvel, I think everybody was kind of on board with this one. It's what I would have argued for in my video for Captain Marvel to just get the 1 power. It's not the major. I don't really have that much input on it. I just think this is a good place for her to be. Apocalypse getting nerfed made sense. But I didn't think that, 1, it really did anything, and 2, that it attacks the root of the problem. Apocalypse is a central part of discard, so I guess that was their reasoning, but discard itself isn't an issue. Hela is a bit more reliable than she should be, in my opinion. She used to be like good as an all or nothing casino card, but now the deck she's in is a bit too consistent. And I mean, that really speaks to discard as a whole. And discard started with the concept that you're risking getting rid of good cards, and then that's why they all have good stats, like Blade and Sword Master. And to an extent, that's true, and that's why discard was bad in the past. But their attempts to raise discard worked. You know, as you nerf everything else around them, and then you make discard better, then yeah, discard's gonna get to the top. I mean, I wouldn't say they're like Thanos top, but like, you know, they're doing pretty good right now. So I mean, I don't know what they could do as a whole for discard, but I think, you know, this was a pretty decent change, all things considered. Psylocke honestly did not need this change at all. I mean, she really out here paying for Thanos' crimes. Really, Thanos doesn't even care about the one power though. If anything, it discourages other decks from playing her. I mean, except Negative, I guess, who likes this change, but I mean, this is a bad change. Alright, the Guardians finally got it changed. And I was gonna make a video on them, and you know what? I actually still am. Because they still suck. I mean, don't get me wrong. A 1-5, you know, for Rocket, like, that's ridiculous, for sure. But I mean, Ant-Man is also a 1-5, and, you know, with a much more reliable requirement. It's just such a gimmicky mechanic that, and I don't think they should all have it, but I'll be talking about them soon, alright? Overall, I mean, it's an okay change, but I guess not really impactful. Alright, here we go. Thanos. I didn't forget about the Mind and Time Stone. Time Stone, arguably just a change instead of a straight up nerf. I mean, if I had to pick, the old Time Stone was better for sure. But this kind of lets you play Time Stone without having to hoard it in your hand, which in some cases is a lot better. Because now you can just play it for the draw if you really need to. Whereas before, even if you really needed the draw, you kind of wanted to wait. So, questionable if that really did anything. But the Mind Stone nerf was a big deal, I will say. But the fundamental issue with Thanos is something else entirely, and it's that it lets you cheat Marvel Snap. And I'll tell you what I mean. The game's balanced around the fact that you've got to allocate your resources wisely. And in most decks, space is tight because you only have 12 cards for your whole strategy. You're also trying to maximize your early turns, though. You don't want to be playing nothing. Thanos makes your deck not as tight and gives you a lot of liberty on what to put in. Because the utility that the stones offer are essentially what tech cards and support cards offer in other decks, but without taking up a slot. Like, why play Scarlet Witch or Legion when I've got Reality Stone? Why play something like Spider-Woman when I've got the Soul Stone? Why play Psylocke when I've got Time Stone? Well, I mean, that used to be the case, but you get the point. You know, you're getting more resources than other decks, which gives you more room to play real threats and less support. The drawback to Thanos is supposed to be that you have a bigger deck and thus less of a chance to draw what you need. And that is true. You know, in some games you could be stuck not drawing any of the stones, at least the ones that draw, and then, you know, you'd be stuck with not having a lot of big cards. So what, do they just take out the draw off of all the stones? I mean, I don't know. I suppose they could, but I don't want Thanos to be bad. I think that they should experiment with wording Thanos to make the stones actually start in your deck so as to, like, not work with Mockingbird. there's been a lot of talk of nerfing Mockingbird, and it's really just because of Thanos. I mean, Mockingbird's a great card, don't get me wrong, but Thanos is the only one really abusing it right now. But this wouldn't be the first time this would happen. I mean, remember when Quinjet got nerfed because he used to make the Stone Zero? I mean, this change could have maybe prevented that nerf. Sure, this change would make it work with Pixie, but Pixie is kind of a gimmicky card anyway. I mean, that being said, I don't know if this is the way to go, or if it would even bring down Thanos as much as people would like. But I think Thanos doesn't need to be brought down that much. I mean, he might just be the most popular big bad in Marvel as of right now. And so I think he deserves a high power level in this game. Overall, I think the nerfs were good, but it's possible that they'll still have to adjust them in the future, especially as new cards are coming out, feeling more synergies with Thanos. Anyways, that's been a review of all of March's balance changes, and I'm excited to see what next month brings us. But until then, snap you later.